Hi, everyone. You're watching It's All Legal, and I'm your host, Janine Hubble-Cox. Today, we are here with Brian Middleton, who is the first African-American district attorney that was elected in Fort Bend County, Texas. Brian is with us here today to talk about what is going on in the George Floyd case. There was an arrest of the officer, the former officer, Derek Chauvin, who was the officer that kept his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck for at least 8 minutes. Filing arrest today. Brian, please tell us from your perspective as a district attorney, what is going on in this case? Why did it take days for us to get an arrest of Officer Chauvin?
You know, I would have to speculate as to why this particular district attorney did take that amount of time, but you know, in a normal investigation, there is some time passage because there are a number of things that need to occur. You need to determine cause of death. You need to do witness statements. It's a lot of different things you need to do. This case is a little bit unique because you had a full video, the whole thing. So I was a little bit concerned and wondering what the hesitancy was. And then you had the statement yesterday is that they weren't sure if they had all the evidence that a crime was committed. But then again, today you got the opposite statement is that, hey, we've got enough evidence to go forward, prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. So maybe they were stalling. I'm not sure.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but when you say they, you're talking about Mike Freeman, who is the Hennepin County District Attorney, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's correct.
Okay.
And so, you know, I mean, my preference would have been that an arrest warrant should have been made based upon the allegations much sooner, especially with all the outrage in the community. I think an earlier arrest probably would have prevented some of the rioting, would have put people at ease that justice was going to occur. And so I think it was probably negligent for this county attorney, I think that's his proper title, took so long into seeking arrest. Now, my other issue is, what about the other officers? They're also guilty. There were 4 officers out there who contributed to Mr. Floyd's death. So, in my opinion, all of them should be in custody right now.
Can you see any reason, just based on your experience as a district attorney, as a criminal defense attorney, why they are not in custody right now?
Just trying to be careful. I mean, when you have a high profile case, that your greatest fear as a district attorney is losing it publicly. And so you wanted in the beginning to dot all your I's and cross your T's and make sure you do a thorough investigation and follow best practices. Your typical case doesn't involve so much video. And so, I mean, one thing, I consider this case to be the Rosa Parks moment of the Black Lives Matter movement, because you have the indefensible, unassailable, unjustified killing of a black man on video, which is aggravated by him pleading for his life. So it's just like, okay, this is a case the movement has been waiting on.
Right.
So justice needs to move swiftly now. And what I would request the viewers to do is remember to maintain the high ground on this one, because look, we got them on it, is the approach that should be. And that, justice can't be denied under the facts of this case. So if we just remain patient, I think we'll see a federal indictment as well. All indications from what I've seen from the press releases is that the feds are going to seek an indictment on him as well. So I think the system, although not moving as fast as I wanted to right now, will ultimately work in this instance.
Right. And so do you know what other evidence that the county attorney was waiting on or recently discovered that finally led to his arrest? Because like you said, there was a statement yesterday that was made by the county attorney saying that there wasn't enough evidence yet, that they need to do further investigation. And now today there's an arrest, they have more evidence. Do you know what other evidence could have emerged between last night and today?
Well, I don't know when the autopsy was completed, but I'm sure that it had been completed prior to yesterday. Um, I have no explanation for that. I was really considering calling him myself and asking him, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
Uh, I've been that upset about this case, and I think it's important for all law enforcement to denounce what happened and to be in unison as to how wrong it was. It's just inexcusable. And in order to restore confidence in law enforcement, I think we have to be united on this case and say, hey, look, yeah, this is it. This is a bright line. This was wrong. The officer was wrong. We apologize. This shall never happen again, is the message that should be coming from all law enforcement, from federal down to local. There should be no dispute that what Officer Chauvin did was wrong, illegal, and murder.
I agree. I totally agree. The other question that I have is, you had the other officer, I believe his last name is Tao, that was just standing by, not doing anything. But I guess there were other officers in the background as well. What type of charges could be brought against them? And I know you're in Texas, this happened in Minnesota, but just from, the laws here in Texas, what charges could be brought against the other officers involved in the George Floyd matter?
This, under the law of parties, any act committed in furtherance of the crime, you are considered a party. So all four officers should be charged with the same offense, because each of them had a duty and did not act or acted in a way that contributed to Mr. Floyd's death. So under the law of parties, which is applicable, I think, in every state, they should all be charged with murder.
Right. And I totally agree. So Mr. Chauvin was charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter.
Right.
We have third-degree murder here in Texas. What's the difference between first, second, third?
It has to do with the criminal, the culpable mental state, the criminal intent. With the highest, level of murder is capital murder. And that's, a murder committed during the commission of a felony, or killing certain classes of people like the elderly, the extreme young, police officers. And that will carry a punishment of life or death, depending on what jurisdiction you're in.
Right.
And what that requires is that you do some act with the intent to cause the death of another person. So that's the highest one, and that's with the specific intent of trying to kill a person. With voluntary, you do some act that's clearly dangerous to life, and you were aware of that danger and you cause the death of that person. That's typically your manslaughter charges. And then you have your criminally negligent homicide, which is where you disregard a substantial risk and it causes that person's death. So it all has to do with the mental state. In this case, just looking at the video and how cavalier he was with his knee on this man's neck, who had already been restrained, it clearly can be argued that it was the specific intent to kill him.
Right.
It also could be argued that he just ignored that risk. He clearly treated him like he was less than human, with no regard for his life.
Absolutely.
So, I think you could make a murder in the first degree, which is specifically intending to cause that man's death. But I could also see a jury coming back saying, hey, it's voluntary manslaughter because he did not have the specific intent to cause his death, maybe cause him pain. But he ultimately will be held responsible for the death, one way or another, under one of the different theories.
But why not overcharge him as opposed to possibly undercharging him in this case?
Hey, I think the appropriate charge is first-degree murder. It wouldn't meet the prongs of capital murder, but it is definitely first-degree murder. I think he ought to pay with his own life in prison. So,
Absolutely.
you know, as you know, Janine, is that in a jury trial, you can be found guilty of a lesser included charge. So if you do charge in the first degree, the jury could come back and say, hey, well, we don't find he committed first degree murder, but we will find him guilty of the lesser included charge of voluntary manslaughter. So I agree. If I'm the DA, I'm charging him with murder, taking my chances at trial. And I'm not even sure that in terms of strategy, whether or not you want to provide that option to a jury as a prosecutor, because they might split the baby and you know, find them guilty of the lesser offense. From a defense perspective, hey, you want to mitigate, so you want all three different types of intent involved in it, so you can argue for the least. So you got two different competing theories in a trial. So you would assume either on the requested defense attorney or on the concerns by the state of meeting the burden of proof that they would request jury charge based on the lesser included offenses. So yeah, I would shoot for first degree murder and be willing to accept a finding on a lesser included.
Right. So do you think that there's going to be a possible change of venue in this case?
Yeah, I think the mayor's statements, although, you know, I feel his passion, I think they're jeopardizing the venue in Minneapolis. At this point, I wish him and the governor would tone down their rhetoric. Because what you could have and what we've seen in past cases is that you get a change of venue and then the judge transfers venue to a jurisdiction where finding a jury of your peers is
it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, you know, it could change venue to a community full of white nationalists and get, you know, the wrong result. Now, my faith is that he gets two convictions, one from the state and one from the federal government. And I think change of venue in federal courts is possible, but it's unlikely that, hey, it's going to, because of the way federal courts are placed, that it's going to fall in some small town. It's probably going to be in at least a mid-sized town that would accommodate a federal court. So, you know, I think it's a fail-safe deal. You know, if this man Officer Chauvin is not convicted, I'd be surprised, but I would be one American who is outraged that it didn't occur.
Well, you and I both, and probably, you know, a large segment of, you know, the United States of America, especially the African-American community.
Right.
It's just not going to fly at this point.
Yeah.
You know, we have two back-to-back murders, basically.
Yes.
Both caught on video.
Yes.
Arrest, it took days, you know, which is, you know, in my opinion as an attorney, ridiculous. So, I mean, when is enough? What more evidence do you need than capturing the actual crime on a video?
Yeah. You know, I think we're at that point, though. I think this is the turning point in America. You know, Rahm Emanuel said, you know, never waste a crisis. You know, we need to keep that mindset and understand this is the moment we've been waiting for. We need to build on it. I mean, it's a tragic, awful incident, but we need to take this and build upon it, because now people are receptive, people are listening, and people are more apt to support a movement for change. You know, and another thing, I think it's changed the mindset of a lot of police officers now at this point, in understanding, hey, you know, we need to hold each other accountable. That's been my message, is that not only is this a lesson about excessive use of force, it's also about neglect by other police officers who stand by and do not fulfill their duty. Each one of them had a duty to intervene and prevent that man's death.
Right.
So The message is, if you're on a crime scene and you see something going wrong, your duty to arrest that other police officer is there, and you should act on it.
I totally agree. So if we do actually get convictions in this case and hold these officers accountable, like you said, my prayer and my hope is that these types of senseless murders, use of excessive force will stop. I mean, it's been my argument all along that the only way that these types of murders, deaths stop is to start holding the people responsible accountable.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. They, unfortunately, we watched it played out on television and on the internet. We've seen them one after another come in, go to trial, and get acquitted.
Right.
And, but this one is just like, nah, we're not accepting an acquittal on this one. And I think any jury that's in panel is going to be feeling that burden because of the facts are just so egregious that I don't think anybody of good conscience can look at this and come to any other conclusion. So once he's held accountable, I think that it will send a message to everyone. We as a society are not going to tolerate this. I feel like, people talk about, laws, being discriminatory. I don't know many laws that are race neutral. The enforcement of it may have a disparate impact. We're a nation of people, and it's the people who are discriminated. And so if we want to know what the identity of America is, we just need to look in the mirror. And so when we look in the mirror, we see who we truly are. And what we notice, you look on social media, you got all these Christians on here saying all this racist stuff and, and divisive comments. It's just like, that's who we are.
Right.
And so when we look in the mirror and we see our actions and we see what we're doing, that's what America is. And right now it's time for America to make a decision. America's having an identity crisis. Who are we going to be? Are we going to remain true to our ideals, the tenets upon which this nation was founded? All men are created equal. Land of the free, home of the brave. All these things are being questioned right now. And I'm a Christian, and I just got to say it. Hey, look, none of this stuff comports with the Bible. And it's a whole lot of people, and I'm sure most of those officers out there went to church on Sunday. Either you're a Christian or you're not. Quit fronting, I'm tired of the fake Christians, just like I'm tired of the fake news.
Right.
If you believe in God and you believe in the Bible says, 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill. Don't try to justify it.
Right.
And I think it's ludicrous that our president would say, hey, if the looting starts, the shooting starts. Well,
I think the shooting, not in this case, but the death of George Floyd is what led to the looting. You can equate death as death.
Yeah. But the idea that somebody in his position or anywhere who's a person of faith would actually believe that someone's life should be taken due to property. It's just like, that's not Christian.
No.
That's not what this country is supposed to be about. So, we've been a nation of hypocrites for too long. I think the pandemic and everything that's going on is forcing us to look in the mirror and face who we are. As all these things, all the muck starts coming up to the surface, we're starting to see the error of our ways. You just think about with the pandemic, how reckless we were in terms of transferring germs. Now, all of a sudden, we're like, okay, we shouldn't do all these things. So that's what needs to happen with the criminal justice system. That's what needs to happen with police officers is that, hey, look, man, we have been treating Black men as though they are less than human, and it's time to stop. We need to change our identity. We need to change the image that we see in the mirror and be true to it and stop lying to ourselves and lying to the public about what type of person we are and be about it. Be the person that you claim that you are.
Right.
Quit the hypocrisy.
And so, bottom line is America really ain't that beautiful right now.
No, it's not. Yeah, we're seeing, and we're better than this. I mean, I have to say, I don't want to live anywhere else. I'm not leaving. I love this country, but it's not perfect. I have my criticisms, but as I learned from reading poetry, it's okay to criticize the things that you love. And I hate it when people say love it or leave it. No, I can love it, I can criticize it, and I can stay here. It's
Right.
not an all zero sum, all or nothing concept. I want to make America better. I want America to be a place that appreciates its diversity and will build on its diversity and make good on all its promises. There's so much to gain from our diversity, and we need to reap all those benefits.
I agree. I agree. I couldn't have said it better myself, Ryan. I mean, I'm heartbroken about what's been going on.
Oh yeah, I cried.
Yeah, same here. I actually attended the Black Lives Matter rally here in Houston today. I was so emotional by the time that I left. I'm like, I just can't believe that we're here again. Same story, same song. When is this going to stop? Like, I'm tired.
Yes.
African Americans are tired. We're tired of the same result at the end of the day. We're tired of these senseless murders. We're tired of these people not being held accountable. Like, it's just too much. It's just too much.
I agree.
So I want to thank you today for sharing your perspective, your expertise. And, like I said, I pray that justice will be served in the George Floyd case, the Ahmaud Arbery case, Breonna Taylor case. And I just pray that we don't have any more cases like this to discuss in the future.
I agree. Yeah, that's my prayer. I think it's time for some divine intervention. And to be frank with you, I think all these things are happening through God's intent to bring us to a reckoning of who we are, to face that person in the mirror and make a change. So, I think it had to get worse before it got better, but I think we're at that point to where, hey, look, you can't get any worse than this. We got to change.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's like, it's time. It's been time, but now is the time, definitely. Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate you speaking